It happened at a nonprofit that was one of our clients. It just killed me. They wired $144,000 straight into a criminal's bank account. You've got to pick up the phone and independently verify, because they will spoof the phone numbers, they will spoof the email addresses, they can spoof the websites.
We started getting some calls from customers like, hey, if this happened, would I be covered? Somebody just got my computer and I don't know what to do. And the regular general liability business owner's policy, that's not covered under those policies.
Welcome to the Mission Secure podcast. This is a special She Leads Securely edition. Today, I am joined by my friend, Erin Neill of Hanby Insurance. She is the agency owner. Hanby is located in Rockwall, Texas. Erin, welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, Melanie, so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about insurance.
I am too. So you and I met at the She Leads Securely conference in February.
Yes.
I was geeked out on your session. Was one of my favorites. It was all about kind of the differences between cyber liability insurance and business owners insurance. I think that is something that just confuses people, but I was dialed in and zeroed in on everything you were saying. So I knew that I wanted to have you here on my podcast today.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Tell us who you are and how Hanby Insurance came to be, how you came to own this company and become an agency owner, a female leader agency owner of Hanby Insurance.
So I actually started my insurance career back in 1999. I worked for another insurance agency for about 10 years, and I knew that I wanted to own a business. And so in 2009, I started my very first agency from scratch in Rockwall. And then since then, I've acquired about 6 other agencies, one of those being Hanby Insurance. We acquired Hanby in 2011. And we are basically a generalist insurance agency, a mom and pop shop is what a lot of people would call us. And we specialize in really all lines of insurance except for health insurance. That's just not something I've ever really gotten into. But we do a lot of personal lines insurance, the home and auto, and then commercial insurance, obviously including cyber, general liability, and that kind of stuff.
So you are an independent agent?
We are an independent agent. So we represent multiple insurance companies. We work for our clients. So we want to find the best coverage, the best deal for you personally, not just kind of what fits in a box. And so we can customize things, specialize things. We can help people with hard to place risk. So maybe some more I guess the word would be like roofing companies, or they're just a little more involved, a little more in detail, a little bit more risk there with what you do. And so a lot of agencies don't necessarily have a home for those kind of things. But at Hanby, we can get insurance coverage for those hard to place risk.
I have a special place in my heart for independent agents. My background is also insurance.
Yes.
I worked in the industry for 24 years. I worked for an insurance company, and so I marketed our products, our homeowners products, our commercial products, our business owners policies to independent insurance agents. So you would have been my ideal client back in the day.
And I love our marketing reps. They're awesome. So that's great.
I love the independent agency model because you really do, you represent multiple companies. You really do get to shop the market and find the best product, the best coverages, the best prices for your clients. I think it's just an invaluable service and very special. So let's kind of transition into cyber liability.
Okay.
How did you decide to start offering cyber? Like, what was there a client? Was there an incident? How did you decide that was a coverage and a policy that was not only important for your clients, but also profitable for your agency?
Well, it really more started about protecting the client because we started seeing, even in our own agency, more and more phishing emails, more websites that looked kind of suspicious. And no matter how careful you are, accidents happen. That's why we all have insurance, right? And then we started getting some calls from customers like, hey, if this happened, would I be covered? Or, somebody just got my computer and I don't know what to do. And the regular general liability business owner's policy, they don't cover any type of cyber, computer, financial. That's not covered under those policies. And so about 5 years ago, we started having our clients basically sign a rejection for cyber insurance because in my opinion, cyber is almost for a lot of businesses more important than that general liability and that BOP policy. But your landlord doesn't care if you have cyber, because if you're a victim of a financial crime, it's not going to affect the landlord. They only care if somebody slips and falls or trips or if you burn down the place, right? And so a lot of people don't know to ask it. And so we just feel it's that important that we started having that included in our rejections, that you understand cyber insurance and you don't want it because it's really important. It's really important nowadays.
I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. Cyber liability is excluded from your typical BOP or general liability policy. It is not covered. And I think having people sign a waiver is so important. When I used to sell, I marketed flood insurance, and I would have my homeowners agents specifically have their clients say, I reject flood coverage, because I knew that 25% of all flood risks happen in a, quote, low risk zone. Well, that's a lot of claims. And as an agent, that's on your E&O. If you don't have that waiver proving I told you about flood or I told you about cyber liability, you didn't want it.
That's right.
I did my job and told you. It was excluded, though. So interesting. And I find that is a common misconception. So first of all, people think I have insurance. Okay, explain the difference between these riders or these attachments that have cyber coverage. They're not the same thing as a standalone cyber liability policy.
That's exactly right. So a lot of business owners, I would say the vast majority, get what's called a BOP policy, right? And business owner's policy. And what a BOP policy covers is it's going to cover your property. You can put a building on it. It's going to have some general liability, your inventory. And now the carriers are started offering endorsements for cyber. Well, a cyber endorsement on a BOP policy is first going to be pretty limited. It's going to cover, I think the max I've seen is $50,000. I've heard of some going up to $100,000. But the majority of what I've seen is $25,000 actually. So $25,000 to $50,000 in coverage. It's not going to have any first-party coverage on it. And first-party is what protects you, the business owner. It may have some third-party coverage on there. So it's going to send out notices to all your clients, letting them know that, hey, your information's out there. We were the victim of a data breach. And it might cover some legal expenses with that, but it's not going to cover any of your fees. So like if you have to pay ransom or if you have to get new software, new computers, new hardware, it's not going to cover anything that's affecting you, the business owner. And that's the most expensive part. So I would say the BOP endorsement is better than not having anything at all. But cyber insurance policies, they've gone up because of really what we have going on in the market. So they're not as cheap as they used to be, but they're still not that expensive. And it's worth having because a typical cyber event, I think was somewhere between $75,000 and $150,000. You probably have a better grasp on that than I even do. And so that little $25,000 BOP endorsement, first, it's not covering you, and it's just going to be a drop in the bucket on your expenses.
Yeah. So I have a lot of people. One of the questions I ask is, do you have a cyber policy? And they'll say, oh, yeah, it's part of my business owners. And I'm like, have you looked at those coverage limits and who that pays? Because it, like you said, it doesn't cover you. It covers the other person, and the limits are really low. So let's talk about the cyber liability policy. I see common policies, coverages of $1 million or $3 million or even $5 million sometimes. However, within that policy, I know that each coverage has a separate line item. I know there are exclusions to that policy. There's deductibles or sometimes retention limits. Sometimes there are sub-limits, like for ransomware. You may have $1 million policy, but for ransomware, it may only pay out $250,000 in coverage. Or for theft of data, it may have a separate line item of coverage. So going through each line item of that standalone cyber liability policy is important too, because you need to know what your coverage limitations are, what the sublimits are, what the exclusions are, the deductibles.
Very, very important. And I've even seen some standalone cyber policies, believe it or not, still exclude the first or the third party coverage because you can pick and choose. So a really good standalone cyber policy is going to include both first party and third party coverage. It's going to include some ransomware, some phishing, And it's almost like a package policy for your cybersecurity. So you can pick and choose. I always say get the broadest coverage that you can get, because if something happens, you don't know where it's going to happen. Am I going to be held ransom for, $100,000, or am I going to have to send out 5,000 letters, and am I going to have to offer credit monitoring to 5,000 clients? And so get the broadest form that you can get, but make sure that you do go through it line by line and that you understand what each item is. And there's another item to look at too that a lot of people think about is some cyber policies are paid on reimbursement, and some are paid, they'll pay the cost for you. So you want to be careful of that as well, because even if you have $250,000 in ransom, do you have $250,000 in your bank account that you could pay and then wait to get reimbursed?
Just waiting around. Interesting. Hey, let's talk about the application. So I help my clients. I don't do it for them because it's their personal attestation. It's their risk, but I'm on the cybersecurity side. So I'm providing the security. And when they're filling out the applications first, I have noticed that the applications aren't just 2 pages anymore. Those applications are pages and pages and pages. And I've seen the question not just ask, do you have MFA, or is your data encrypted? I see it now asking, do you have MFA here, and do you have it there, and do you have it everywhere? And is your data encrypted at rest, and is it encrypted in motion? And as business owners, they're experts in running their business, not in insurance and not in cyber. So we do guide them based on what security they have in place through us. We guide them through answering that application. I always tell my clients, if you answer that application wrong and you have a claim, that's cause for denial. And so talk to me about what can happen if someone does not fill out that application properly.
So you're exactly right. So if you don't fill out your insurance application properly, if you don't know the answer and you just make a guess, and then a claim does occur, and let's say it occurs because you don't have multi-factor on everything, that's what I tell everybody. Multi-factor everything you can, your Facebook accounts, all your work accounts, multi-factor everything. But let's say that you answer yes, so you've got it multi-factored, and maybe you just have one item multi-factored. Well, if the data breach came through another thing that you did not have that set up on, that is absolutely cause for denial for the insurance company, and they do not have to pay that claim because you were not honest on your insurance application. So it is very important to make sure that you are honest on the application, that you do fill it out correctly. If you don't know the answer, that you get the answer, because again, you don't want to be in a situation. And so tell people all the time, what's going to go wrong is going to go wrong where you have that hole. And that's why as an insurance agency, we want to fill all the holes. And as a client, you need to make sure all the holes are filled too, because the incident will usually happen in the gap. So be honest and put it on there correctly.
Yeah. The incident happens in the gap. On the cybersecurity side, we want to fill in those gaps.
Exactly.
What I have found is that when clients have our full enterprise recommended cybersecurity stack in place, not only are they qualifying for the policy, I think that's a myth. I can just go get a cyber liability policy. No, you can't. You have to have security measures in place to even qualify for the policy to begin with. What we have found is that when they have our full enterprise stack in place, they not only qualify for the policy, but they qualify for the very best coverages at the very lowest rates. We have seen our clients save tens of thousands off their premiums. These are big clients. But it's just phenomenal how much they save. And when you look at it that way, first of all, cybersecurity is part of the cost of doing business today. But when you have proper security in place, it actually offsets some of that insurance cost because you're getting the best coverages at the lowest price.
That's true. And so a lot of people, I always say people don't like to pay for insurance because it's always like, we as people don't ever think anything bad's going to happen. But on our side of the table, we know that these kind of things do happen. And we do see it every day, and we see it come across, and we get those phone calls. And so you're right. What happens is when you have the proper protocols in place, you do get discounts per se on your cyber insurance because your risk now become lower.
Yes.
And so it is very important to have the correct protocols in place to get that lower rate and also to protect your company. But that is very true. it used to, again, 15 years ago when we first started selling cyber, and I'm at an age where I don't, like 15 years ago feels very long ago. And I'm like, but maybe it was 20. But when we first started dealing with cyber insurance, you could get a cyber policy, and anybody could. You're right. Anybody could go out and get the cyber policy. It was $300 to $500 a year. Yeah. It was a one-page questionnaire. Yeah. And bada bing, bada boom, you were done. Mm-hmm. Now, the cyber insurance applications are 5 to 10 pages. Yeah. They're asking a ton of questions on, like you said, encryption, multi-factor, antivirus, firewall, managed services. And the insurance premiums we're seeing now are anywhere from, $800, $1,000 for a smaller business to tens of $1,000s for larger enterprises. Right. And so it is a lot more expensive, but it's happening more and more. And anything that you can do to be more secure and safe will help your business in the long run.
When you think about it, insurance, the rising cost of insurance is the ultimate social proof that what we're seeing in cybersecurity, what we're warning of, the red flags that we're raising, like we're not making this stuff up. We see the attacks every single day. And a business that I would so much rather be on the proactive side of the conversation. I love insurance. It's a great financial backstop, but security can stop the majority of attacks. Now, I say that, not saying that security can stop all attacks. Right. I firmly believe you not only need cybersecurity on the proactive side to stop things, but you also need the insurance on the reactive side, because there are going to be, the attacks are coming so swiftly and so in such a sophisticated manner that no security can keep up with the criminals. They're just so bad.
Right. Well, there's always a risk. Everything that we do brings a risk with it. Mm-hmm. So no matter how secure you are, you can stop a lot of it. Yeah. And you can get cheaper cyber insurance because you're trying to stop it. But there's always going to be that one employee that clicks the wrong link, or that one website that they probably shouldn't have been able to get to, but they can still get to. So that's always going to be a risk of things that can happen. But you just have to try and fill all the gaps that you can.
Yeah. And you made a good point. It only takes one well-intentioned, well-meaning employee clicking one wrong link to let something malicious in. And it's that same thing that makes them a good employee. Things like sense of urgency and wanting to get their job done and finish their to-do list. But we're humans. Sometimes we're overloaded with our workload. Sometimes we're having a bad day. Maybe we had something personal go on that's just, maybe we're distracted. We're human. And employees are undoubtedly our greatest asset, our strongest line of defense when educated, but they're also the weakest link. And so, I think that was a really good point. It just takes one person having one bad day.
I told this example at the conference. Mm-hmm. We had a client, probably been about 6 months ago now, that one of their team members accidentally wired a large sum of money to a person basically posing as one of their clients. They had masked the email address, so it looked like the email was coming from one of their vendors or clients, and they sent the ACH request. They said, update the information or what have you. The employee paid the invoice, and they realized it pretty quickly. And the bank was able to basically seize the funds.
Oh, good.
But then the bad guy is saying, no, they really owed me that money. And so now it is being tied up trying to prove, which before the bad guys would just go away and, okay, well, the bank got it and then, release it. But that's not even happening anymore. Now they're trying to, they sent it to me. It is mine. They do. And so I think it's very important too for businesses, and this is probably part of what you guys teach too and going through that cyber application, but having multiple people look at those ACHs. Even my own bank called me today and said, hey, we need to set up what they're calling like dual processing or dual permissions or something like that, where basically if I go in and do an ACH, that somebody else in my organization has to verify it because it's so prevalent and happening so much. And we tell our customers, whenever somebody calls you to change their ACH information, before you even start dealing with them, you probably need to have a phone number and a person that you need to talk to. Mm-hmm. And then you need to call them back on that phone number. Because with all the new AI, you could take this podcast and make my voice on something.
That's right.
And so you have to call back the special number. You have to verify it because it's crazy how good these financial criminals and cyber criminals have gotten.
We see ACH and wire fraud happen all the time. It happened at a nonprofit that was one of our clients. It just killed me. They wired $144,000 straight into a criminal's bank account. And independently verify. That is what you said. That is such a good tip to independently verify. Do not call the number back that they sent you in the email. We're even getting, instead of just phishing attempts, they're called whaling attempts because they're targeting the highest people in the company, the people that control the money. They're sending it through texts. So it's also called smishing because it's through SMS texting. And you've got to pick up the phone and independently verify because they will spoof the phone numbers, they will spoof the email addresses, they can spoof the websites. So like you said, having that dual process where it's not just one person approving that money, but also independently verifying. That has to be done today. It's a non-negotiable today. Let's talk about the myth that I have insurance, so I don't need cybersecurity. I hear that a lot, and I also hear the reverse of that. I have cybersecurity. You're supposed to stop all my attacks. Why do I need insurance? I see them as two pieces of a protection puzzle that work together, and they're both non-negotiables. You've got to have the security as the proactive piece, and you've got to have the insurance as the reactive piece, and they really do work hand in hand. What do you say about that?
I agree with you 100%. So yes, you have insurance. Do you have a standalone cyber insurance policy? Because if you just have insurance and that's all you got, and you haven't talked to your insurance agent about it, and you haven't verified it, and I know you probably hadn't read your policy, then anything cyber financial related is expressly excluded. If you got a standalone cyber policy and you know what's in it, you do have coverage and you're good. But how did you answer that application? Do you have the MFA? Do you have the security side in place like you said you probably did on that application? Because as we previously mentioned too, you're probably not going to qualify for cyber insurance nowadays if you don't have security in place. So you have to make sure that you have the security in place. The security is your first line of defense. The insurance is your second line of defense. It fills the hole.
Yep. So if business owners are experts in running their business, they're not experts in insurance, They're not experts in cybersecurity, what can a business owner explain to me why it's important for them to come talk to someone like Hanby Insurance, who is writing cyber liability, who does deal with us on a daily basis, who is keeping up, and just the benefit of being able to come in and ask questions. Like if a business owner doesn't know the answer, do they come to you? Do they go to their security people? Like how does the business owner make sure that what they're saying on that application is accurate?
I would say do both. And I will say I am not a cybersecurity expert. I know about cyber insurance.
Yes.
So there's some of those questions on there. I'm just going to be real transparent. I don't know the answer to. I'm going to tell you need to call your cybersecurity company and they can tell you what they have in place for you. But there's things on there that I do know some of the answers to, and I am able to help. But I think that you need to talk to both. You need to understand from the insurance agent what the insurance policy actually covers.
Right.
Because we've seen the opposite side too. We've seen where, my cybersecurity company said I just need to get $1 million. Well, how do they know that? How many clients do you have? What is your actual exposure? Or, I don't need this or I don't need that. So you need to talk to the insurance agent because the insurance agent knows the product. The cybersecurity company knows what you have in place that's going to help you stay secure.
Yeah. I think getting everybody in the same room together
is even better.
Yes. I mean, we need
better.
We need to talk about this together. That's why I think it's so important to partner with a cybersecurity firm and an insurance agent that both are experts in what they do, and then get in the same room together and have that conversation. Explain what those coverages are. Explain what security measures meet those requirements and expectations. And then ultimately the risk is the business owners, and it's their personal attestation. It's their signature at the bottom of the application. But getting help from both sides, I think that's the smartest move.
And I think that is a great move. I mean, a lot of people meet with their CPA and their financial planner at the same time. This is not any different.
Great point. This is a big myth I want to talk to you about. I'm too small to be on a criminal's radar. I'm too small to be a target. I'm too small to need cyber liability insurance. Tell me what you see from the insurance side. Is it just the big companies that are getting targeted? Because I know what I preach to people. I want to hear it from your side.
You're not too small. Nobody is too small to be targeted by a financial cyber criminal. And the reason that you're not too small is honestly, you're an easier target.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of the bigger corporations, they have multi-layers. Like they have that dual processing on the ACH.
Right.
Most small businesses don't. It might be a, family business where the daughter does the books and or however you've got it set up. And most small businesses don't have the training to understand, is this a phishing scam? Is this a spoofing? Is this a smishing like we were talking about? They don't have the training. And so the cyber criminals see that as just low-hanging fruit. And the sad part about it is most of those small businesses, if they don't have cyber insurance, they're not going to be able to recover from that, especially when they have to start notifying everybody if their stuff's held for ransom. It can be toughest on a small business. And so what I would say to small business owners is you need cyber insurance. Like I think I started this podcast with, in a lot of cases, like retail shops, online boutiques, that kind of stuff, your cyber insurance is almost more important than your general liability. Somebody coming in and slipping and fall might happen, but you got 10 people a day that are probably trying to get into your system. And it's not as expensive, too, when you're a smaller company. It's probably more affordable than you think. And even though I know it's just another added expense, probably in your mind, it could be the one thing that saves your bacon if you were to get into that situation where somebody in your family that works for you and does the books accidentally wires money to somebody who was pretending to be one of your clients.
Yep. So what I know, depending on the industry data that you look at, about 60% of small businesses that experience a cyber attack never fully recover. And I know Hanby is a small to mid-sized business. My company, IT Architects, is. I grew up working in my family's chain of convenience stores. I just have such a heart for small business. I know the blood, sweat, the tears, the sacrifice that goes into running a small business, and just the long hours. This is not okay. And so what I always tell people is you're not too small to be hacked. You're just too small to make the news. Like we see the big sensationalized breaches and compromises, but we don't hear about the small town shops, but we see it every single day. And they're the ones that it hits the hardest because, as you said, they don't have oftentimes the security in place that the larger organizations do. They don't have the money sitting in the bank account to cover all the costs. They are low-hanging fruit and easy targets because of it. So that's why I love what we do so much, is because we do look out for those smaller businesses and help to protect them. What is the one thing you wish every business owner knew before they needed to file a claim?
Oh, that is a very good question. I think one that I wish they would know is that the insurance companies want to help you. And I think that a lot of times that is a misconception. They think that the insurance companies want to get out of paying, but that's not the case. The insurance companies want to help you, but they're going to pay you what you're owed. And so if you lie on that application and say that you have all these things that you don't have, well, then they don't owe that, but they do want to help you. And so it's just important to be honest on everything, to work with them, to call them back, to give them the information so they can be there to help you. Another thing that I wish people would think about before they have a claim is documentation. So like the minute that cyber attack happens, where did the email come from? Shut down the computer, like have a plan in place on how you are going to get through this attack. Just like you might have a disaster plan for a tornado or something like that, have a cyber plan. I have one with my team that we walk through, like, if this happens, what do you do? Where did you go? Shut down the computer. But I would say know that the insurance companies do want to help you, especially if you have an independent agent like me. We want to help you and be your liaison between you and the insurance company too. So insurance is on your side. We want to help you get your claim paid, but you have to help us. And then we also have a plan be prepared, have something that you've walked through with your team, so everybody knows what to do if that were to happen.
I love that you said that because coming from an insurance background, I do feel like the insurance companies get painted as the big bad wolf so much of the time. They're just looking to get out of paying claims, and claim reps especially get a really bad rap. But insurance companies are companies too. They're in the business of making money just like the rest of us, and they have to charge a premium commensurate with their risk. It has to even out. That's what the actuaries do. They study your risks. They study that. That's why when you put proactive security measures in place, your premiums go down, because the actuaries know that when you do, you have fewer claims. They pay out less in money. And it's a matter of doing business. And gosh, to your point of having an incident response plan, kudos to you for having one and for practicing it. That's called a tabletop exercise, not just having a plan written down, filed on your computer somewhere that you may not be able to get to if your data is encrypted and your computer shut down, or if you do have it printed out and in a cabinet somewhere. Does your staff know where it is? Does everybody know what they're supposed to do? Who calls the attorney? Who calls the insurance company? Who notifies customers? All of those things. And then working with the insurance company, if you have a standalone cyber liability policy, the insurance company probably has steps and plans and people for you to contact and forensics teams and, breach attorneys that they prefer you speak with. So as you said, work with your insurance company, communicate, get back with them when they ask a question. It's better to give too much information than not enough. Write a paragraph if you need to write a paragraph on the back of your application.
Right. Write it down.
Yep.
Well, and it's important too to have the coverage. So back to when we first started this, where people are like, oh, I've already got insurance, I don't need cyber, or, oh, I've got an endorsement on my BOP. Well, the claims adjuster can't get that first party coverage when it's specifically excluded. So if you have the coverage you need in place, things go way smoother for you. And again, insurance companies want to help, especially insurance agents. I feel like, I know my agency. And so just, they said, work with us, like know that we want to help you, and that we're offering this to you, not just because we want to make another commission, but because we know that it's real and we see it. And if you have a claim where you accidentally wired a large sum of money to somebody, if you call me and you just have a BOP endorsement, I don't like being the one that says there's nothing I can do, because ransom and the ACA, that's not even covered under that BOP endorsement. But at least if you have a standalone policy that's properly written and it's on the broadest form, there's a chance. Mm-hmm. And we can call the carrier and we can get a claim started and we can try and get that money back.
And I think the theme is that we would so much rather be on the proactive side of the conversation, because you and I, both from an insurance perspective and from a security perspective, have been on the other side. We've gotten the call in the middle of the night. Our systems are down. Our data's encrypted. I have a ransom note. I accidentally wired hundreds of thousands of dollars to a criminal. We've been on that side of it. And once you're on that side of it, there's only so much that you can do. So if any of this resonates with our listeners, I just encourage you to reach out and have those conversations proactively with your insurance agent. Review those coverages. Talk to your cybersecurity specialist, your MSP, your IT provider. Let's get together and figure out, give you what you need, the best coverages, the best prices, so that you can make a decision on how you want to manage your risk. Because at the end of the day, it is the business owner's risk.
It is.
Yep. Erin, this has been such a great conversation.
Yes.
I could talk to you all day and just geek out on this. I really appreciate you being on the Mission Secure podcast, this special She Leads Securely edition. Please, everyone, Erin, tell people, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Our website, www.hanbyinsurance.com, or give us a call. We love to talk to you, 972-285-0381. And thank you, Melanie, for having me. I love being here, and I geek out on insurance, obviously, as an insurance agent. And so being somebody excited to have a conversation with me about insurance just makes my day. So thank you.
You're welcome.